And if you're the ones doing it, if you're the one that's creating your reality, then you better get busy creating something you want, because this is coming after you and this is, you know. But eventually the metaphysician gets tired. And when we come to the end of our journey of being the metaphysician and trying this community and this practice and that practice, and every time you come into a new community or a new practice, oh, it's great, it's awesome. After a while, got to get out of there. I got to find what's really my real place, my true place in life, right? Because the mind is never, again, it's always leading us, you know? It's like the blind leading the blind. When you're led by your mind, it's the blind leading the blind. I call it the land of the lost. You know, you're just constantly in the land of the lost when you identify with the mind identification. But when you can step back, like we did right before I spoke, step back and come into the I am. Come into the presence. Come into who you are. And allow that to do the work. You don't have to do the work. Jesus says, I of my own self can do nothing. Right? Understand what that means. When you give up, something greater than you takes over. It's the Father within that does the work. It's not this mind. And so there's different levels. Then when you start to surrender, then the metaphysician goes into the mystical. Being the mystic. The mystic is not so identified with what's going on. Yeah, things come, things go, things are happening in life, but the mystic is not really concerned. It knows that it's just this too shall pass. It comes, it goes. It all comes, like Ramana Maharshi said, it comes, whatever comes, let it go. But be with that which is always there. Be with that presence that is always present. Be with that oneness. And what happens is you start connecting in to this presence that's within you. You start feeling it. Because the only way to come into the presence, your mind is useful to an extent, but there comes a time when there's no mind. The Buddhists call it the no mind. When you get into no mind is when you're fully just present with who you are. You're feeling the energy. Just take a moment right now. Eckhart Tolle uses this too. I mean, but Eckhart Tolle is not saying anything new. There's nothing new about New Thought either, by the way, if you're just here for the first time. There's nothing new about it. I don't know who coined, maybe Bob or Jerry or somebody can enlighten me afterwards, but I've just been thinking lately, who coined the term? I know when it came about and stuff and why it came about, but somebody had to coin it, and there's still a mystery to me as to who coined that term. And a lot of times you say New Thought, well, there's nothing new about it, you know, but at that time it was a new idea, it was a new thought, it was a new movement in awareness and consciousness, and the time of around after Emerson and Phineas Quimby, and there was you know, the Christian Science people, and then there were the New Thought people, and there's like, well, would we call ourselves metaphysicians or New Thought? Yeah, New Thought. Yeah, New Thought. Yeah, that sounds good. That's a good marketing name. It's a good marketing name, right? So New Thought took over. But there's nothing new about any of this. It's eternal principles, ancient wisdom. You know, it's just always there. You know, the Indians say Satchit Ananda. That's who you are. You are truth. You are consciousness. You are bliss. That's your true nature. Your true nature is already enlightened. You don't have to become it, enlightened. You are enlightened. And when you realize that, or you start to rest into that, you can let go, and you can relax. You can stop working so hard. The mind's still going to do its thing, it's going to play its tricks, but you'll be less identified with it, and you'll start to see it. Once you see it for what it is, it's like if you get hoodwinked by the people that are marketing stuff to you, once you see the game for what it is, you don't buy their stuff anymore. The same thing with the mind. Once you start seeing the mind for the games that it plays on you, you start being that witness. You're not attached. You're great. One time I thought my life was coming to an end, and I had all this drama coming on, drama going on, and I went to a friend and I started telling her, pouring out my heart, telling her what's going on in my life, and she just started laughing hysterically. She just started laughing. I'm like, she's laughing, you know, and it broke me out of the story. You know, when you just laugh, when you get to that place, it's like, it's all a joke, it's all temporary. I remember the first time I moved to California, I went to California to do the practitioner training at Agape, And when I first got there, it felt very uneasy, felt very uncomfortable because it was a whole new world, you know. And so whenever you enter into the new chapter of the new world, forget the new chapter, let's go into a new world, right? When you go into a new world, it's uneasy because the ego likes what's familiar. Even if it's painful, it's familiar. So let's stick with what's familiar, right? So familiarity. But when you let go, you don't know what's next. You don't know what's around the corner. Sometimes the metaphysicians get lost up and they want to create what's around the corner, but their soul has a bigger picture for what's around the corner than this. And then you say, well, it didn't work. Duh, because what's inside of you is working too. And if everything that you wanted up here manifested the way you wanted to manifest, you'd be in real trouble. You'd be serious trouble. Serious trouble. Then you look back on your life, oh, thank God that our relationship didn't work out. At the time, it was like, oh, that's who I want, right? Or whatever. You know, the job. And you look back, oh, thank God I didn't get that job. Thank God they didn't pick me. You know? There's a whole nother idea, a whole nother plan in store. You know? And so, less identification with the mind, more identification with the truth of being. It's the truth of being that sets us free. That truth of being is already free. It's already who you are. In the beginning, God. It's after we started believing in good and evil and two powers, we got kicked out. And now we're working hard trying to fight off good and evil. And, oh, health is good, sickness is evil. Poverty is not good, but abundance, yeah. Having a couple $1,000s, that's good. See what I'm saying? So it's a polarity, it's duality. And coming from out of that, you can work in that level until it no longer works. Because it comes to a point where evolution is calling you forward to the next step. There was a time when this whole mind science was called the mind science, right? But we're now into like the spiritual science. Spirituality, our truth of our being is spirit. It's pure spirit, it's pure awareness. It's formless. But the mind, we become identified with form. We think that the body is who we are. We think that the self-image that our mind creates about us is who we are. And anybody who's ever become enlightened on any extent, they said they went to a dying process. It says in the New Testament, I die daily. When you're living that life of surrender, you're dying daily. You're not holding on. You know, it's like if you've ever sat in a train and you just watch the scenery as it's going by. Can you stop and hold up any part of that scenery as it's flowing by? You might, it's still gone, you know? So the same thing with your life, it's going, okay, in India they say, dukh and sukh aata rehta hai. When you're on a boat, you see the wake of the boat, it's just happiness and suffering or pain. It comes and goes, good and bad, whatever, it just comes and goes. No matter how great of a metaphysician you come, you cannot evolve to the point of not having any pain in your life. Pain is inevitable. The suffering, the attachment to that pain is optional. The good, the bad, the indifferent, it all happens. The war with another personality, that's the ego trip. And once we really get this as a human race, we start to embody this as individuals, we embody this as communities, we embody this as a human race, there'll be no more war on the planet. All war is based on separation. But when you realize that whoever you're killing is you, you go to a different level. When you realize I am you. So the egoic mind creates separation between religious factions, communities, you know? It's always an us and them thing. You know, you may be with your relatives and you walking in the house. Still an us and them thing. It'll create this us and them. Me, I'm doing my thing. Them. They're always doing this stuff. So this is where this whole us and them comes from. But when we start seeing the us and them for what it is, it has less of a hold on us. And the less and less a hold on us it has, then it's called what the yogis would call moksha, liberation, freedom, true freedom. You still have the body, you still have the limitations of being in this world, but you're free from it. You're not really, you know, doesn't matter if you lose the biggest diamond ring you ever had. If you lose the biggest diamond ring you have, it cannot diminish a piece of who you are. It says in the New Testament, who by taking thought can add 1 cubit to their stature. No matter how much you do spiritual mind treatment, you can't change or add on to yourself who you are. You can only awaken to who you are.